We find ourselves in the pandemic. And yes, this is something you've heard and you continue to hear over and over again. And one of the things that we find in this new normal, or the way that we have to do business these days, or the way that we get a chance to do business, is by virtual meetings with our team members, virtual meetings with our clients and prospects, virtual meetings with our family and friends. But in the settings, when you're doing a virtual sales presentation, are you doing it effectively? And our organization adopting to the best policies or practices to that matter? And in today's episode, we're going to tell you how you can magnificently increase your performance as a sales rep through effective virtual selling. Hey everyone, welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today on TSE TV. If it's your first time watching one of our videos, I ask you to go ahead and click like, and also go ahead and hit subscribe. When you hit subscribe, make sure you hit that chime so we can notify you whenever we produce a new episode. On today's episode, we have a phenomenal guest. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give one anyways. His name is Mr. Jeb Blount. He is the founder of the Sales Gravy organization, the Sales Gravy podcast, which has been on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, I think since like 2007, 2008. So Jeb is like the godfather of sales podcasts. He is one of the podcasts that were out there that I looked up to when I was first launching my show, and we got a chance to we got a chance to partner together on a webinar and to collaborate. There you go. That's the proper term. Collaborate back in the days. And I'm grateful for that. And now I'm excited to bring Jeb back on the podcast again. And he's going to talk to us about virtual selling, some of the things that he and his team are putting together right now to help sales reps who do not understand how or don't know how to sell effectively virtually. Anyways, this is going to be a great conversation. I look forward to hearing all of his great tips. Get your pens, your Evernotes. Let's go ahead and dive into this thing. Welcome back to the show, Jeb.
Man, I am so glad to be here. It is always a pleasure. I haven't been on nearly enough. I think you should have me on every single week. I listen to the Sales Evangelist all the time. I listen to it everywhere I go, and sometimes I binge on episodes. So I'm really happy and honored that you've got me back on the show.
Well, it means a lot, and I appreciate it. We were bantering here post-recording about the good old days and how when I first started going into sales and I was introduced to podcasts, I went in search, and there was Sales Gravy as one of those podcasts up there, and I'm like, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. Let me listen. So I'm super excited again to be able to have you here. And I remember if folks can go way back and search, back when I started my show, you took a chance on a little kid and we did a webinar. I'm not sure if you remember, with your organization at the time, way back then. So
I remember that.
I appreciate that, and I thank you. But Jeb, I'm super excited to talk about this. I bragged about it at the beginning, and we started talking about virtual selling, how critical it is right now, the situation we're in. But I wanted to get from you, why did you decide to write the book? I mean, did you see it because of the pandemic, or did you start seeing issues come from that? Or give me some of your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll tell you, about a year ago, we were in India, and we were at this monument there doing a tour, and there was this kid there shooting videos, and we were shooting videos, and he came up and he started having a conversation with me. And, maybe 13, 14 years old, and he started asking me questions about video, and we started talking about his YouTube channel and my YouTube channel. And, he had like 26 views at the time, and he was so excited about that. And he was, his whole focus was on video. And at that point, there was just sort of something that clicked with me. I've been doing video for a long time, but I realized that, when you start looking ahead, video is king. Yes. And I came back, we did a series of training programs on using video in sales, and we use video in sales all the time. So it had already been on our mind. But the catalyst for the book, Virtual Selling, which you can see behind me, was primarily the pandemic. So for me, just a really quick story, I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I was speaking at the Berkshire Hathaway conference, which had like 6,000 real estate agents at it. Yeah. And this was mid-March, and I gave a keynote speech. I walked off stage, and that was it. The world fell apart a week later. I I was in the studio doing an audio book, and I literally walked out the door of the studio, and it was like everything had changed and overnight.
Yeah.
So I started worrying about my own business. I'm a sales training business. I have a sales team. I have training team. I got an operations team. And I'm panicked like every other business owner, because we were primarily and in the field, standing in front of people doing training, and all of a sudden we had to shift into virtual. Now, we've been doing virtual since 2015, so it wasn't like it was new to us, but it wasn't the primary way that we work with companies. It was sort of an afterthought, or an after run. So if you're a company and you couldn't afford to have us come on person, we would go, well, we could do it on a virtual call. So we shifted the business, and while we were doing that, one morning I was taking a shower, and I don't know if you ever think when you're in the shower, but I do a lot of thinking.
Best ideas.
I had this idea, I need to write this book, and I walked out of the shower, dried off, got dressed, went downstairs, called my publisher in New York, and said, I got the craziest idea ever. We need to write this book, and we need to write it now because it's going to matter. And the thing is we need to publish it in 2 months. So I'm going to write the book, and then we're going to get it published. And nobody does that. Normally it's a 24-month run, to get a book published, and it takes about that long to write a book like that. So I just happen to have a really amazing publisher, and my editor is incredible. And she said, let's do it. And we sat down and wrote the book. And then what was interesting about it was that, we originally, the concept was, going back to my story around video, was that it was really going to be focused on, how to do a video sales call and how to use video messaging and really how to integrate video into your sales process. About 2 weeks into writing it, I realized that it was so much more than that. That it was taking all of the virtual communication tools we have, both synchronous and asynchronous, and how do you leverage those tools and blend them into your sales process? Because face-to-face selling is not dead. It's just inefficient. So how do you blend that so that you can be more productive and more efficient and get more done? You can shorten the sales cycles. You can have more conversations with buyers. And little things started popping out, like, you do an initial meeting. So, I do a prospecting call, I set an appointment, I do an initial meeting. If you're in inside sales, instead of doing it on the phone, get on video so you can build a better relationship, right? And if you're in field sales, why are you driving across town for a 30-minute meeting to do a quick qualification call and create interest so that you can set the next appointment to move into discovery? And if you could blend that in as a virtual call, then you could handle a lot more initial meetings, which means your pipeline would be a much bigger, and the number of objections you would get for the time that you wanted to meet would actually go down, because people are much more willing to hop on an easy virtual call than they are in a person call. So it just, as you started going through it, you realized that it was reshaping the way we think about selling, especially in field sales, but also in inside sales. A lot of my clients are inside sales teams, especially in Silicon Valley, and it's amazing how few account executives actually will put their face on a camera, even though the data is telling us that the closing ratios go up exponentially when account executives get on camera and they interact and they're human. So on both sides of the equation, no matter where you are, there's a case for blending in virtual selling and how that can both shorten sales cycles and improve your closing rates.
Well, I'm there's so many things I want to go back to. I want to go back to one. This whole paradigm shift, which is fantastic. Two, the percentage. I don't know if you have that hard data. I know it's in the book. Didn't get a chance to pull it up, but the data showing with AEs showing themselves specifically. And then three, I wanted to first go into why. Why do you feel that? What are the biggest hiccups right now holding people back from taking advantage of virtual selling? Because, like you said, you've been doing it since 2015. Majority of our clients, we've done it since with that way as well. But why do salespeople or organizations just don't adopt it? And I'm curious from your research.
So there's, a couple of things. One is, and it would be similar to why we hadn't really gone all in on virtual training, is that most people believe that this is the way you train people. You train people in person. Most people believe that this is the way that you sell. If you're an inside, you only use the phone. And if you're in the field, you only sell face-to-face. And it's hard for people to conceive that there might be another way. So that would be one thing. Like, it just wasn't it wasn't something we thought about. And another way of looking at it is, and I write early in the book, I write about this. If we go back to 2007, 8, 9, and 10. So this was a seminal moment for the sales profession because, and Aaron Ross was sort of a driver of this because he'd been experimenting in this area. But when we were in the Great Recession, that was when we began to take sales functions and break them out into silos. So you have an SDR and a BDR, and sometimes those are the same things, sometimes they're different. You have senior BDRs, you have account executives, you've got account managers. So we started splitting the sales desk into multiple pieces, whether you agree with that or not, and sometimes I don't think it's the right thing, we did that. And it happened pretty fast. Well, the same thing happened this time. So we hit the pandemic in late February, March, and suddenly, right, the technology was there, the tools were there, everything was there. You've been doing it, I've been doing this for a while, and all of a sudden the technology met its moment. So everything speeded up. So in a situation, and I say this in the book, that necessity is the mother of virtual selling. Like suddenly, we ran into a situation where we had to do it because there was no other way. Now there were a lot of people panicking, but they had to. So all of a sudden the technology's there. So I think the awareness that there may be another way, and this, by the way, is why we're not going to go back. We're not going to go back to everybody working in offices full time, and we're certainly not going to go back to everybody selling in certain ways. We're going to go back to a blend of both of those things.
Yeah.
I think the same thing is going to happen to school. The second thing is people were uncomfortable with the technology. So there's a whole lot of people out there that using the technology and leveraging the technology the right way, they just didn't understand how. And it seems like, especially for a tech savvy person like you, and I see you everywhere, like you're you're a god online, right? So everywhere you go, but like you totally get it. But even Gen Zs and even millennials struggle with the technology required to effectively run an omni-channel, so across multiple channels, virtual selling strategy. There's also the issue, especially with video, that people are terrified of looking into a camera. I know that to be true in my own world because I was late to video, and we talked about my podcast earlier, and I missed the big move to YouTube because I was uncomfortable on camera, even though I shoot thousands of hours, right? So people are uncomfortable with that. So it's getting people comfortable with the camera, and so that holds people back, and also teaching people not just the camera but how to use the phone. There's a big section in the virtual selling book on email etiquette. How do you write an email, both for account management, in the sales process, down pipeline, and for prospecting? So how do you use social media to create familiarity? If you're a face-to-face salesperson, you use your charisma, you use the ability to interact with people and connect with them in a unique way, and you touch them through face-to-face interaction, and you create a level of familiarity like that. And familiarity is the lubrication, right, of relationships. The more familiar I'm with you, the easier it is for us to meet. The problem with virtual is you don't get that. So at the same time, you've got to create familiarity. One of the ways that you do that is through social selling, is through personal branding. So a lot of people don't have that motion and that rhythm in their lives. So you have all of those things happening. And then there's the big fear is that my clients won't accept it, right? So I hear this all the time. Well, what if I set up a video call and my client won't get on the video call? And my answer to that is always the same. Listen, if everybody had their choice, we would all meet face to face, because that is the easiest way for human beings to connect. It's just not the most efficient way. And there are some clients who may never want to meet you face to face. I get that, understand it, go deal with them the way you want to deal with them. However, if you don't give them a choice, or if you just ask for the video call, it's amazing how many people will. So most of the hang up is not with clients, it's with you making the decision for your client for why they won't get on a video call. And so all of those things were happening at the same time, and that's what was holding people back. Now, once we get people to accept it and they move forward, then what we have to do is teach people how to do it really, really, really well, so that virtual becomes the closest facsimile to face-to-face as we can possibly get, so that we can build and create better relationships.
Man, so much in there. Jeb, going back to the numbers with virtual, you mentioned that a little bit earlier. Are there any hard data you're willing to share that you can think from the top of your head
Absolutely.
that helps to shorten that cycle?
Yeah, an easy one is if we take a look at Gong.io did a study of 100,000 sales calls. Now, this is
Yeah,
primarily going to be with account executives and primarily going to be inside sales because that's where Gong.io makes its money.
sure.
But they did 100,000 sales calls and they found that when people turned their video camera on, closing ratios went up 41%. Think about
Hold
that.
on, 41, so almost 50%.
Almost 50% up, right? An increase in closing ratio.
Dang.
And that would be, the percentage of deals that you're closing. But here's another one. SalesLoft did a study, and I don't think their study was as wide as
Mhm.
Gong.io's. I think the data set that Gong.io was working with was big enough so that that number is a pretty solid number. But SalesLoft said that they did a similar study, and they got a 75% increase in closing ratio when they were using video.
Hmm.
And and what they concluded, and I thought this was really interesting in their report on this, was that it turns out that video is not a joke. Like, this is real. If we just look at, Cisco does every year they do an internet study, and a lot of people cite this particular study, but they're looking at the amount of internet traffic. Now, this would be, inclusive of everything, including Netflix and all the things we watch. But they're looking ahead, and they're projecting that in a couple of years we're going to be like 86% of the internet traffic is going to be video because we like to consume video and we like to look at video. If we then look at HubSpot, so HubSpot did
Yeah.
a nice study on prospecting. So they looked at video messaging, and video messaging is, a lot of people just think video messaging is prospecting, but video messaging can span the entire sales process. We use
Oh,
it
yeah.
all the way through, every step of the way.
And
We're
especially with
sending video
clients,
messages to our clients. Yeah, it's powerful. 400% increase in email conversion rates when you included either a video or a link, right? So if you put the video in the, GIF or whatever in the email, or was a link in the email, a 400% increase in conversion rate. So, and more studies are coming. I mean,
yeah.
there's so much. I mean, I love it, and all of this is cited in the book, but there's so much scientific data, not just on how video helps salespeople, but on how people respond to video, the psychology around video, especially live video, like what you and I are doing right now, and how that works. So, I could go on and on and on about this stuff, but I mean, it's really powerful in terms of how this works. And I give you a really simple example right now of just some of the basic psychology.
Sure.
Now, right now, you can see that I'm making eye contact with you because I'm looking directly at my camera. So the problem when you're making eye contact is it's really hard to see the other person. So
Yeah.
what you have to do is get good at training yourself to in the peripheral, so you have peripheral vision, of seeing the other person in your peripheral vision and picking up the small micro expressions and what they're saying and what they're doing so that you can respond appropriate to them. And that's just something that you have to learn. And by the way, there's data behind that, and there's the link to the study on how you can train yourself to pick up human emotions in your periphery is in the book. So, powerful things for salespeople to get and learn. But if you think about it, it's like we have to completely retrain our brain on how we're interacting with people, especially on video.
Oh man, you're 100% right on that. And I've seen even more so nowadays. So many people now use Zoom as I call Zoom the new Kleenex, right? Because instead of saying jumping on a video call, you have Microsoft Teams and so many things. People are always like, let's just jump on Zoom. And especially with the international calls. I mean, I'm sure the phone companies don't like that too much because now with Zoom, that tremendously brings that down. The expense and also just the ease and the, like this morning I was talking to a client in Poland and they had their other client in from Germany and we were all there taking care of this project that we're working on. But it was fascinating how we were quickly and was so comfortably able to do that through video. You mentioned the idea again of the a little nuance about not looking in the camera and some of those things. Are there any other tips like that that you feel that salespeople may, especially if they're starting off using this, that may be uncomfortable with, that we can point out that can help them as they're converting over to using more and more videos?
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's just take you for a second.
Sure.
If we take a look at your frame, so we look at your video frame. So what I'll typically do, for example, this is a tip. If I'm going to look away from the camera, I'll tell the person I'm going to look away from the camera. So I would say, Donald, I'm going to look down at you for just a moment on my monitor, so I can show you how you look. So I pre-frame that. So now your brain doesn't think, why isn't he looking at me? Right. So I look down. Now you can see I'm looking down at you, and I'm going to back away from the camera a little bit. So I use that movement to move myself back. And when I look at you, you're framed perfectly. What I mean by framed perfectly, if you just look at your frame, you've got a complete, horizontal and vertical lines are even. So you're not looking down and you're not looking up, right? And that's what happens when people have their laptops down.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really important about your situation there is we can see your hands. So when you're talking to me, you lift your hands up. This is just a basic tip, but when people can't see your hands, they don't trust you. And that's not happening at the conscious level, it's happening at the subconscious level. Because when we look at human beings in real life, we can see their hands. Imagine if you were, let's just say you were having a conversation with somebody in real life and their hands were behind them and all you could see was this. At that moment, like you'd be like, what are they doing? You'd be thinking twice about it, right? Because, and it's one of the reasons why we shake hands. We shake hands as a sign of trust, because when we put our hand out and they have our hand, we can't kill them, right? So I mean, you emote with your hands. So what you want to do is have a frame like you've got. You want to typically be torso up, and you want to be able to use your hands. And I tell people, stand up, just stand up.
Yeah,
you're going to be so much better, because when you stand up on video, you can create depth, right? When someone is important, you can lean forward, you can step back, you can give movement, and when there's movement, people are paying attention. So I wouldn't do this in someone's office. I would sit down in their office, but they could see the entire me.
Yeah.
So I think those things are super important. It's also important that you're not staring at yourself. So there's some really wonderful studies out there that say that most people spend up to 70% of a video call looking at their own picture on the screen. And it's tough not to do that. But the problem is, if you think about it this way, most of the time what you're looking at doesn't look very good, because you don't like looking at yourself in camera anyway. It's sort of like listening to yourself, and at the same time, you're usually a little bit distorted. It's tough, and then so you start like getting disgusted at what you see, and this is really important, when you're looking at yourself, you're not looking at the camera. If you're not making eye contact, you're not trustworthy.
Yeah.
And I just want you to imagine that if you went to a meeting with someone, and in a field meeting, and you went out, you set the initial meeting up, you met them in the lobby, you shook their hands, they take you back to their desk, offer you a cup of coffee, you say no, you get the meeting started, and you reach in your bag and grab a mirror, and you put the mirror on their desk. And so during the meeting, you spend most of your time looking at yourself in the mirror while you're having a conversation with them. Like, how long would that last? It would be ridiculous, but that's what we do on video.
Yeah.
So we go back to, when you're on video, the key is that you want to make it the closest facsimile to in person as possible. That's the entire focus here. So these little things like framing yourself the correct way, showing your hands, making eye contact, all of those things matter greatly, as well as making sure that you've got a good camera, you've got great equipment, you've got a good setup. I've got a setup here, so I'm lucky you saw my producers in here earlier.
Yeah.
So I've got people who attend to these type of things, but I've got the right equipment, so I've got good sound, I've got a good video quality, and I've got monitors set up so that I can see people the right way. We even have in our other studio over there, and this is not for the weak of wallet, but it's about $4,000. But it's this massive monitor that fits onto our camera. So it's like a big teleprompter, but we reverse the Zoom meeting. So when you're talking to the person, you're literally looking them eye to eye as you look through the camera. So there's never a temptation to look away. And because in that setup, they can take you off the camera, you never even see yourself. So it's a beautiful setup, but we're investing in things like that because, as you said, a great example is we sold a big contract to an organization to build some social selling training for them. We had a discovery process that included 27 stakeholders. It was a big deal. So we only went to one meeting in person, and that was in late February. It was the last time we actually went out on person, and that was with the executives to close the deal. Everything else was on a virtual meeting because most of the people were in different parts of the world. They were in Asia, they were in Europe, and we had to have a conversation with all these people in order to put together a business case for why they should do business with us. So if you have the right technology and you've got the right methodology and you've got the right mindset, all of a sudden, like, you can accomplish anything on video. And that doesn't mean that, again, face-to-face is dead. It's not. It's the best way to communicate. It's just not efficient. So I know that, we started out talking about productivity, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm on my soapbox now. You got me
great.
wide open, right?
This is awesome. Yeah, I feel that even with the idea of productivity, doing more with less, I think we hit some of those things there, because and also I'm sure I'm listening to this from a sales rep standpoint, me being a seller, thinking, how in the world am I going to best be effective at this when I'm uncomfortable? But some of these strategies definitely did help and gave me some good clarity and gave some good guidance on that. But
I think
Jeb,
the key is with productivity is, like, you have to choose as a salesperson, and this is, I think, the future, is that the future is that you have to, as a salesperson, choose the communication channel that's going to give you the highest probability of getting the outcome that you desire in any sales interaction at the lowest cost of time and energy and money, right? So that's the formula that you need to be working with. And if flying to Poland, like if you had gone to Poland, you got on the airplane, they wouldn't let you in right now because
physically
we're banned. But but if you were flying to Poland and you spent the $5,000 on the plane ticket and the 16 hours to go and back, and then of course you've got jet lag and a couple of days. If you felt like that investment would get you the outcome that you desired at better than something else, that would work. But if you said, I could do a video call and probably accomplish the same thing. Now, if I went there, would the probability go up that I might get the outcome that I desire? Probably, right? If you went there and made that investment. But is the investment worth, like, is the gap between the probability on a video call and the probability on an airplane worth the amount of investment that you have to make? And that's the decision that you have to make as a salesperson. And what sales leaders and CEOs and P&L owners should be doing right now is taking the entire sales process and mapping it out and trying to think about what are the best communication channels in these particular situations so that you can meet buyers where they are and you can be more productive and you can get in more sales calls, and at the same time you can reduce your total cost of sale.
Oh, I couldn't agree even more with that. I love it, and I'm convinced. And you seller, as you're listening to this, and sales leaders listening to this, I encourage you to check out Jeb and check out the book, and to learn a little bit more about how you can take advantage of this, and even better. And I love what you said there, Jeb, too. Include video throughout the whole length of the sales process, and not just in prospecting. We've seen some remarkable stuff, and even with this too, Jeb. We have some BDRs in our team who are not too keen on video. So what we started off with them doing were the simple video with a script, but we didn't, we have them practice so it can become natural. But speak through it, get some crappy ones out first. And then those are the evergreen videos that we're using. So when you call a prospect, it doesn't necessarily need to have a fully personalized on that one. These are some people, actually these were customers that they were calling. Some of our customers. So they left them a voicemail, but they also sent a video, and the video is just being that added benefit towards it. Mm-hmm. And they were getting a response. And it's amazing how that works, because the person can listen to the audio, the voice message, but this video as well, it's different, and they see the actual individual. They get the premise in like 30 seconds what they want, and they don't have to read anything because we're all lazy.
It makes you a human. Yeah. And that's one of the neat things about video messaging in particular. We do video messages everywhere. Like we were in Nepal, and we did a bunch of video messages at the Monkey Temple. And we did outtakes because monkeys were jumping everywhere, and I'm ducking in the middle of the videos, and people we write us back and say, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. But these were we did videos thanking people for buying from us. So they had just made a buying decision. We did videos where people were in the decision-making process, and my sales rep said, could you shoot a video and send it to them? We did videos before things had ever started. They were prospecting videos that we were sending in. And so we just look at the entire process. And one easy tip for BDRs is, if you think about a BDR, like the worst thing for you is that you set the appointment, they don't show up.
Yeah.
And when you're in inside sales, it happens all the time because it's easy on the telephone to tell you yes, and then not show up for the virtual meeting. So one easy way in between is, as soon as you set the meeting, grab your camera or have a camera near your desk, or use your webcam, and shoot a quick video and go, man, I am so happy to be spending some time with you. Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we're going to get together and we're going to talk and I'm learning more about you. Boom, send it off with your meeting invite. It's really hard not to show up after someone put that type of effort in.
Yeah.
So you can be authentic. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, the key thing is being yourself. And I'm starting to collect good ones. So we have a playbook that goes with the book here, and so I've got trainers who are teaching a lot of this. So we're getting some of the best ones in, and the reps that just have a mindset that's, I just want to talk to people, and they turn all their personality on. Oh Lord, some of these videos are so good. You would never say no to them. Like, I'm okay, I'll meet with you, because it was that good.
We did an episode with a guy. We connected with the folks over at Vidyard. They had a competition last year, the award ceremony, and one of these, Frank, who won one of their categories. So he was trying to get a deal with a large restaurant chain, and they so happen to have wings, and they have a hot wing. So this guy, he's super creative. He turns out to a theater major at one point in communication, and he took the stuff from his past and a side gig that he does, theater, and used this towards his day job. So he went ahead and got 4 of the hottest wings, and he told them to put the hottest sauce possible on this wings 3 times. The lady was like, what? So he 3 times the sauce, and he ate it and gave the pitch to the individual. Yeah. That video was like 400 times open. And it landed the appointment.
You're exactly, and again, you think in those situations, it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
So the effort that you put in that, you want it to be focused on the right things. So when you're doing, for example, prospecting sequences or prospecting videos, do them with targeted accounts.
Yeah.
A lot of at school, it doesn't work. And I go, why doesn't it work? Well, I sent them to a bunch of accounts. I said, well, where did you get the leads from? Well, they were just in the database, and I was just pulling them out of there. Like, that's not what we're talking about. Like,
no.
You build a target list of prospects. It's going to take you, I just figure it's going to take 15 minutes per video. If you shoot it and you edit it briefly and send it to them, if you're good, it'll take you a lot less than that. Yeah. But then you got to load it into an email, load it into a sequence. So make sure that you are putting the right amount of time and effort into the right accounts for the right prospects, and you're going to get more out of it. And but the thing is it can just be authentic. Like, you can just have a good time. And if you get the right, like, I've got this little I use Video Leap as a really neat little, I don't have my phone with me, but it's a neat little, I use Video Leap all the time. It's a great little app. I mean, I use the GoPro, I use Premiere Rush, I use iMovie, but Video Leap is great. So you can put a little picture over here and put a little picture over here. So there's fun things that you can do, and video messaging is great. And it's a wonderful asynchronous, tool. But then if you combine that with direct messaging like WhatsApp and Messenger and LinkedIn, you can get around email. These days people send me video messages on Instagram. You can send video messages on Twitter. On Twitter, you just you can attach your Vidyard to your Twitter account. You can send them via text messaging. So you have all of these different avenues that you can connect with people. And if we just really dial it all down, right? Virtual selling is selling, and selling is talking with people. And the more people you talk with, the more you're going to sell. And we're just in a place now where we have more avenues and more channels in which we can connect and have conversations with people than ever before in human history. And sadly, like you said, you got BDRs that are, well, I'm just really uncomfortable with this. And my message is, get over it, because this is the new world, and you don't get to be uncomfortable. It's like someone saying to you, like if you were hiring somebody and they go, I'm not really computer savvy, you'd say, look, you really can't work for my company.
Yeah, if you don't know how to use a computer, I'm sorry. Good luck to you. We have a typewriter from the stone age you can go use back then. My wife actually, we have one of the old school typewriters from back in the early 1900s, and it's just like a antique in the house. And I was going to take a picture of it and put my phone on top of it. I might do it now, and because we were just cleaning out the office the other day, and I was like, yeah, look,
I've got one of those too. I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. Like I got to get on the internet and find out where you can buy ribbon for them.
I
I
know,
thought
right?
that'd be really cool if I could, type out a few pages on it.
Like, I'm going to send you a physical letter in the mail, do a video telling somebody you send them a physical letter. You're going old school and new school.
Yeah.
Jeb,
That's a killer idea. I love that. What if you did a video of yourself writing them a letter, and then you sent the video, and then you mailed them the letter? I guarantee you get a response.
I know, right? Imagine you send that, or you can send a video 3 days in ahead. I mean, send
Yep.
the letter in 3 days ahead. Say, hey, I just wrote you a letter. You're going to get it today,
Yep.
and go through that. I love it, man.
You could do the Jimmy Fallon where you read the read the letter, dear.
You see, this is what it takes. This is all it is. And one thing you share, another thing you shared that I kept, it just stuck in my brain, Jeb, was you said 70% of the time people looking at videos are looking at themselves.
Mhm.
And I think
Yep.
it goes back to, I think you were a big proponent of this, like from one of your other books, I think it was Fanatical Prospecting. I can't remember, but the idea of empathy. No,
Yeah,
it's,
Sales EQ.
yeah, sales EQ. So the idea there is like, if we are focused really on the prospect, why in the world are we focusing on ourselves so much? And usually
Exactly.
the prospect don't care about your flaws, the things that you think are real issues, like I might have the scar or my teeth might be too big. Or, nobody's paying attention to that. The fact is that you sent them a personalized message. And it's because we're too focused on ourselves that we're neglecting the opportunities that lie right in front of us. So
Absolutely.
anyways, man.
And just be yourself. I mean, they just want you to be yourself. They want you to be authentic. Now, when you're on a video call, you've got to manage your background. You've got to manage everything. But when you're shooting a video message, the best thing you can do is have fun. I always tell people, look behind you to make sure that you're not capturing something in your background that might be offensive to people. You have to be careful with that, right? Or you've got like this month's sales numbers that you're sending out to all your competitors, but you want to make sure, like this, we call this the clubhouse, like a clubhouse background that we do a lot of podcasts in here because it's just a fun background.
Yeah.
So just make sure you have that set up. But I can't really emphasize enough how important it is that you just be yourself. And you said something I think is critical. You got to go mess up. Like you got to go do things. And if you really want a good example of this, go to my YouTube channel. It's YouTube/Sales Gravy, and just go back like 300 videos, and you're gonna see when I first started doing videos, and it's bad. Like it's like a history lesson in video conferencing because the first videos are just voices over PowerPoints, right? And then then it grows. So I go back and look at the first videos, and I've left them on to remind myself that you can always get better. And I'll tell you one more thing about that, and this is, I think it's especially true lesson, is my son started working with me, graduated from college in March. You can call it a graduation, but he graduated. And so he came to work for us, and he started writing his first article. So he just published his first article on Sales Gravy, and it took him like 2 weeks. Like he wrote, really a lot of work, and the first draft was bleh. So after he got it all done, I handed him my very first book, Power Principles. And I handed him Inked, which was the book that I just published right before Virtual Selling.
Yeah.
And I said, just take these 2 books home and just read the first 3 chapters of each book, and come back and tell me what you see. And he was in his, he was a baby when I was writing. He was 6 years old when I was writing Power Principles. So he brought him back to the office, and he said, I'm gonna be nice about this. He goes, but this book sucks. And I went, yeah. And I said, if you want to think about it, I put more of my heart and soul in the book that sucks than in this book.
Yeah.
And I wrote this book. It's hard for me to even believe how much time and effort I put into writing this book, and how bad it is in terms of the writing, like the grammar and the passive voice and all the things that you do. And the lesson is that the way that you get better at writing, or the way that you get better at video, or the way you get better at having video sales calls live, is that you have to go suck for a little bit, and then you build on that and you get better and better and better. But if you never do it, you'll never get better. You'll never have that experience. And that, I think, for your people who are, and anybody listening to that your message on that is as good as it gets. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if it sucks, because right? You're still trying, and people dig it when you try.
Yeah.
And the next one will be better, and the next one will be better, and the next one will be better. And pretty soon you'll be trying to figure out how to go eat hot wings and make prospecting calls.
Jebs, we appreciate you, man. Virtual selling, they could find it everywhere. Amazon, I know that's where we saw it, and on the website. All where our books are sold, they can find that. Correct?
Absolutely. Everywhere you go, it is ready to go, ready to ship, and I think you'll like it.
Well, Jeb, if folks want to get in touch with you either way, just to be a friend with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
Absolutely. Really easy. I'm at Sales Gravy pretty much everywhere. So I'm Sales Gravy on YouTube, Sales Gravy on Instagram, Sales Gravy on Facebook, Sales Gravy on Twitter. Just type my name in, Jeb, Blount. At LinkedIn, you can find me there. And then, of course, you can find me at my website, salesgravy.com.
Awesome. Well, Jeb, I appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate your wisdom and for being here and for giving us some guidance. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me on.
That was Mr. Jeb Blount, and if you'd like to connect with him and to also learn about his book, you can also find all that information right here on YouTube on TSE TV. Just scroll down, you'll see the links, click on it, it'll take you back to Jeb Blount's website, also take you back to our website where you get a chance to check out some of our content and some of the show notes and how we have painstakingly taken all of the details so you can have an awesome summary. We want you to check it out. Find all the details there back at our website and find all the links below. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or any of the other directory, just swipe up on a cover art and you'll get a chance to see all of the show notes there. Jeb is a fantastic individual. I was going to say fanatical prospecting in one of his books, but Jeb is a fantastic individual, and I highly recommend you connect with him and learn from him. Also, if you are in sales leadership or in leadership in any capacity, you have to check out Interrupt. Interrupt is an awesome podcast. It's empowering women leaders, but it doesn't matter because you can check it out as a guy watching and listening, because one of the big challenges that we find right now, and the reason why we decided to back into become executive producer for this podcast, is because so many women right now are so frustrated because they get interrupted so much in the workplace. It's one of the biggest pet peeves. And also, they don't get a chance to get a seat at the table. And we want to interrupt the status quo. We want to give women, some of the best sales leaders I had have been women leaders. And we want to make sure those women leaders who are out there, who are not getting their voices heard, to get the opportunity and learn what some of the top women in leadership are doing right now. Check out that podcast. To find all the information, go to Sales Podcast Network /interrupt. That's INTHERRUPT. So inter is in the HER, rupt. INTHERRUPT. We'll have a link down below as well. I tell you these things, I share stuff like this. I tell you about podcasts like Interrupt, and I tell you about folks like Jeb Blount because I want you to succeed. I want to help you. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you actually reach out to them and how to close the deal and how to do it virtually right now. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.